Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. This is my first Hedna. I know. Well, hi, Kulin. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And honestly, just watching the intro this morning, it makes me feel a little more relaxed about getting up. Sustainability is not normally a go-get-'em kind of a topic, but we'll make it as entertaining as we can as we get into this. So, sustainability. I want to get into a little bit more about what Phocuswright is. Has anybody heard of Phocuswright? And yes, I'm holding a piece of paper because I was that prepared. Who knows Phocuswright? Yay. That's great. Phocuswright, just so for the rest of you who don't know, was established in 1994 by a lovely gentleman named Philip Wolf in an effort to try and bring research to the travel industry through looking at things like consumer marketplace, what they're doing, everything that has to do with consumer interactions in the marketplace. And he built that over the course of 30 years. And as it evolved from just a consumer travel market report into what it is today, we do a lot of research on very relevant topics in the marketplace, like sustainability, many different things. And one of the ones that I thought was super interesting for your audience was our short-term rental study, because we want to know how that impacts what's going on in the hotel marketplace. So lots of interesting things going on at Phocuswright. I started just in October because I have a data problem. Most of my professional career, I've been in the industry 30 years myself, mostly on the trade side, went into the data and the research side because of the interest. To that end, what I realized when I started working at Phocuswright is that I know less than I thought I did, which is super fun. Everybody loves that when they've been in it a while. Because the market really expanded. When you're on the trade side and you start working on technology, you get into the data research and you go global, and your eyes open up to what is out there, how consumers are participating in the marketplace, and what businesses need to do to engage better with them and build their businesses, work on sales and marketing, advanced technology, things of that nature. So, before I get into this, it's a really super interesting study that we did on belief versus behavior with the consumers. If I asked any individual in the room here to define travel sustainability, would you be able to rattle it off the top of your head? Like the 7 key core, anyone? Right? Right? Me either. I'm like, I recycle. That's cool, right? I can do that. So I thought, last night, as I'm thinking about what I was going to present and how to do this, is that most of this research study is based off of the core elements of sustainability, which is what this is, which is why it's not in here today. So I'm going to read this and I'll drop the paper on the floor, just so you know, because contextually speaking, you need this information before we go in. So travel sustainability, for your reference, is minimizing your carbon footprint, supporting local economies, respecting local cultures and traditions, conservation of natural resources, reducing waste, and promoting biodiversity. None of those are actually super duper clear, as it were, but it matters when you go into what the study is and why we went into this. The reason why the study is belief versus behavior is because we have been told as brands for a long time that consumers deeply care about sustainability. They're willing to support it, participate in it, pay for it, whatever it might be. But if that were the case, and we're 4 or 5 years into this, and post-COVID, we've seen a surge of opinions about this, why are there not more eco-friendly properties that are thriving? Why are brands not seeing as many conversions in their sustainability initiatives? Why are people still putting their towels on the floor? No one knows. So the question was, why? Why are they doing this? And we wanted to create a study that was really, really different than, are you interested in sustainability? Because there's not many people who will say, not me. I do not want to save the planet. No, I'm off. We want to know what their behaviors are. So what we did is a blind study. We went into these consumers in our pool of humans and said, we're going to ask you about your travel behaviors first, then we're going to ask you about your opinions on sustainability, and we're going to see where they match. And we're going to go really, really deep into this. What do you know? What are you interested in? What's important to you? Why do you choose what you do choose? And to give you a little preliminary up front here is that this is the tip of the iceberg on this study. This study went on for about 7 months, and we also coordinated with primary brands on making sure that the behaviors that we concluded were actually what they were seeing on the transaction side. So the blind study was a start, but then we wanted to go totally holistic on this. This is a thoughts, feelings, consumer behavior study on how they feel about their purchases, why they are choosing what they're choosing. And the goal with that is to say, what do brands need to do to better support sustainability over time, understanding consumer behaviors and that emotional connection to sustainability, wherever it is. So with that in mind, I'll rip off the Band-Aid. The money is not where their mouth is. They say it, they do not behave that way. And there's varying reasons why that is the case. And we found many of them, everything from education, interpretation, and the me factor that's part of all of it. So let's start here. We're gonna start with transport, just as a basic premise here, with the belief of, I am more likely to choose a method of transportation for its carbon footprint than for convenience. These numbers are great. 50%, right around, are fantastic numbers when you're actually looking at a commitment to lowering a carbon footprint. If it were actual, that would be great. This study was done through the US and Europe. The behavior actually was 7 to 11% of people actually made selections for transport based on carbon-based initiatives. Clearly, that's less by a long shot. Lodging. Well, I ripped off the Band-Aid too quickly on that one. The belief and behavior here. I'm more likely to choose lodging based on its environmental friendliness. You're still in that 50% world. But when people were given a similar price, location, and comfort, and an option of sustainability, 6 to 13% actually made the sustainable decision. So we're seeing a lot of disparity here, right? I mean, people are saying they want things, and they're not transacting in that manner. So then it came down to, all right, maybe we just got a subset of humans who are just not sustainable. Maybe they just don't do this as a general factor, right? So we asked on the survey, who is sustainable at home? Who participates in sustainability, recycling, conserving water, all of those things at home? So the same subset of people were asked these questions, and those who are not sustainability oriented were less likely to participate in initiatives when they travel. But the ones who were sustainable were not dramatically higher than that when they were traveling. So the destination would put a little twist on it for us. We asked if people prefer to visit places that are not very well known, but are also less crowded. We're all in the travel industry, we all want that. I mean, we all want to go to places that are less crowded, so that it was not surprising to see these results. The interesting part about the destinations were that they stayed in a lesser known area was the highest numbers that we saw. 21 to 28% of people actually acted on that behavior. The tricky part was they didn't do it necessarily because it was a sustainable option, but it was because it personally interfered with their own travel experience. So it was a benefit to sustainable travel to not overpopulate a single destination, but they also enjoyed their experience more if it was not as crowded. So part of sustainability is going local. The benefits of being sustainable in a region and contributing back to a smaller destination or even a larger destination for it. So is it valuable to them to make a difference to the place that they're visiting is the question. So virtually everybody, again, we see a lot of these numbers. 50% or more of people will say, yeah, absolutely. I want the money that I am spending to go to the people who are in the destination where I'm traveling. So the question is, how do you know? How do you know that your money is actually going to that local community, right? And we asked them if they asked when they were in destination, if the money that they were spending was going back to the community that they were visiting. And predominantly no. They said they didn't know, they've never asked, or the ones who did ask primarily asked if it was about food, the organic sustainability, all of that regionally grown, all of those kind of things. So that was the most popular one of the bunch. Still, if you look at the scale of it, virtually nobody asked. They make assumptions based on the fact that you're in destination, that the money is staying within the community. So on a lodging level, the priority to choose a property based on if it's locally owned or not was not super high as well. Obviously a little bit higher in the UK and in France. Just a little fun fact for you. So this is why I was leading with this at the beginning. Do you know what sustainable travel is? We have so many brands who promote sustainable travel, eco-friendly initiatives, carbon-friendly initiatives. And the truth is, our travelers don't necessarily know or understand what sustainable travel is. They make some assumptions on what it is based on what they experience personally, but their impact individually, the choices that they make, they are not making the connection between the two. Environmentally conscious travelers find anything environmental in their travel selections confusing. They don't know what they're saying yes to, they don't know what the impact is, and they don't know why it matters to them. And the more information you provide on why it's important, the less they participate because they just don't know. Many people perceive these things as donations more than contributions back to the environmental cause that the property or supplier is promoting. The most recognized ones, completely familiar to everybody, and what I led with originally here in the room. I don't know if everybody had, give a hoot, don't pollute. That was like a million years ago. It started 50 years ago, you know what I mean? Then there's turning off lights. People are yelling, your dad did that. Became recycling. Then it was single-use plastics, which are recent. No daily linen changes, most recent, and primarily in Europe, transportation selections. These are all obvious things that people know are sustainable. This is one of my favorite slides. I did not make this. Avoid purchase of drugs and contraband. I'm like, always a good tip, Why not? But people recognize these as cultural contributions back to the destination. Obey the rules. Don't do drugs, kids. Yep. All right, so the next thing that's kind of interesting is that people don't see that if they consider visiting off the beaten path destinations, that it is actually a contribution to sustainable travel. They just don't understand it. 13 to 20%, 21% actually understand that they're going to different locations is actually an assistance to not over travel, hyper travel, over visiting, all the things. This is the big one. They don't think it's their issue to deal with. Consumers look at these things and they are grateful for suppliers and brands that are sustainable. Well done. They just don't see it as their initiative. They don't see their contribution to it. They don't see the personal individual impact that they're making and why the selection is meaningful on their part. So only 19 to 26% believe that they even travel often enough to make a difference. So an individual traveler, based on the data that we received, said that people take 1 to 2 vacations a year. It's not much, right? Their travel doesn't matter. Well, obviously there's a cumulative factor that goes on when you're looking at data that there's a lot of people who travel 1 to 2 times a year, and that is where the overall impact really makes an effect. So whose responsibility is it based on the consumer side? Virtually everybody believes that it's the government or the travel provider's responsibility to take care of the issues of carbon footprints, everything from a sustainability level. When you look at the local community, when you're trying to give back and trying to contribute back, they believe it's government and the destination primarily on whose responsibility it is to get that money back to the locals. It isn't really theirs. They're just a participant and funding it in their mind. So the worst part about this when we got to the end of it is that they think sustainable options are more expensive than others. And I did some looking on various sites and was researching, major brands to say, okay, where are they seeing this? I participate in a lot of hotel programs and all of that myself to see where this is. And their understanding of what they are contributing to is not that they're contributing to sustainability, they're seeing a higher price point and they're not making that connection. So 36 to 47% of people believe any sustainable option will be more expensive, just overall. They believe that if they're going to make a selection for sustainable travel, they're going to pay more. Premium travelers are actually willing to pay more. When asked if they are going to go into this and say they're going to make a difference, 10 to 15% said that they would pay, they would pay 10 to 15% more on annual daily rates if asked to do so on a premium travel basis. So how can this gap be closed? I mean, there's a huge disparity between what people believe they think they want and what they actually do. It's enormous. And what we saw on our end, and again, as I mentioned before, this is just an overlying view into the study itself, is that education is important. People aren't understanding their individual contribution to sustainability and what they can do to better it and why they should participate. On top of that, they don't understand what sustainability really is. Most of them didn't even connect the fact that it was beyond recycling, that it was about visiting a location. The transport element is just becoming more popular, but not everybody does it. Of all the studies, 56% of the people we asked did not even understand the questions on the sustainable side. That's a huge number. I mean, so we're promoting a lot of sustainable pieces of information to our consumers, but they don't even understand what you're saying, much less how it impacts them. So more options, making it easier to find on your website if possible. I don't know, or just increasing it. You guys know more about this than I would on increasing consumer interactions on your website and engagement or in purchase points. But showing that it's accessible and affordable is super meaningful on the consumer side. They need to understand that they can participate, but it's not going to break the bank, and that it is actually helpful. We do see that they just don't understand what they're saying yes to. I mean, beyond not having your towels changed per day, they kind of get that one. So it goes beyond the environment, right? I mean, diversifying your travel and making sure that they understand what their contribution is, the carbon levels, all of those things are things that people need to know. And if your brand is actually promoting those as sustainable initiatives, there's got to be a lot more education that takes place on your side to get them to engage more. The numbers are just too broad and the investment is too great, clearly on a sustainability level on brand, to say we need the consumers to participate in a much larger fashion. So, education, that's pretty much it. I mean, going back to Woodsy Owl and your dad yelling at you to turn the lights off, that took a long time. I mean, I think everybody's ingrained now that is the deal. So time will tell on how much we do repetition and information to make people really get on board with participating in this, making it accessible, and making it something that's in a price point that initially is something they're willing to bear and make a contribution back to. So I know that a lot of you are not the people who deal with sustainability in your organizations. I did review all the attendees at this event, and Phocuswright is proud to say we work with almost 50% of you on some level, or you guys have attended our events. So I'd love to get you access to some of the studies and the research if this is something that impacts your business or you want more. Most of you in this room actually have access to our open access where these reports live, including the sustainability one. If you need to know if you have access to it, these are corporate-wide reports when people participate in it. I'd love to give you access to it, and there's a lot more in there with consumer travel reports and everything. Subscribe to Phocuswright if you want to see any of this and not get a part of that, please. We'd love to share more information and data and research on what's going on in the marketplace for it. And thank you. I just said I deleted my thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that gave you some great insight into what's going on in the sustainable marketplace. It is super high level. We've got a lot more to share, and if I can help with anything else, definitely let me know. And enjoy the rest of your time. Thank you so much.